So I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Nagi Reddy, who heads the Asian Institute of Gastroenterology. It's in Hyderabad, India, and I'm sure some of you have visited it, but it is probably the largest endoscopic center in the world. And he will tell us about his experience with two devices, the Habib Endo-HPV and the Habib EOS. So welcome, Nagi.
Thank you, Nagi. Actually, I'd like to thank Dr. Nagi Habib for introducing me to this very exciting technology, and obviously it's in an evolution period, so there's going to be a lot of, there's going to be, I think, a period where it's going to evolve to a stable phase. We've had experience with this device, and I'm happy to see that the group is growing every year. I think we're getting more people working in this area, and that's a good indication. We've had experience both with biliary and US RFA probe. I'm not going to talk about my experience here. We have done about 65 cases of biliary RFA now, 10 for obstructed stents also, and we have experience with the US RFA, part of which is being presented, I think, today at DW. What I'm going to do is to see what we can, what are the limitations and what we can try and improve in terms of this. The present biliary RFA probe is 8 French, so there are certain disadvantages with this, and it's got, as you can see, 2 electrodes. The first major disadvantage is for non-circumferential strictures. We find that this is not ideal, because unless it's a very tight circumferential biliary stricture, it's not going to burn the tissue completely. The other problem comes with angulated strictures, because it's sometimes difficult to put through this through very tight or through angulated strictures. And when we look at the injury pattern that occurs with this, you actually see that there's a maximal injury occurs in the mid part and then tapers down. So this is the type of triangular injury that you get when you actually work on it on tissues. The other disadvantage is we have tried using this in blocked metal stents, and the problem comes that unless there's a very gross tissue infiltration to this area causing obstruction, it is not very effective in clearing the stent, even if there's tissue growth. So I think these are the current disadvantages. How do we overcome? I think one of the things is if you could taper the tip of the cannula to, say, 3 French or 4 French, this could help for it to actually go inside in this type of strictures. And second, I think this is something that the company should work on, that the RFA should be mounted on a balloon, like what we do for esophagus, for barracks. I think this would be extremely helpful, especially one in non-circumferential strictures. Secondly, we sometimes have cholangiocarcinomas, or even sometimes other forms of tumors in the bile duct where it's not tight stricture that's there. The lumen is still quite patent. So one would want to blow up the balloon and put it across the stricture. I think that would help. And I think putting more electrodes also would help. We currently have 2. I think at least 4 would be helpful in form of giving a uniform injury. We actually looked at another model with 4, and we find that the type of injury that you get with 4 electrodes is more uniform throughout the tissue rather than having 2. I'm not sure whether this can be incorporated, but if we can incorporate a cooling system that's like in the standard RFA modes, then probably again, because the aim is to achieve a temperature of 70 degrees, and we're not sure what they're doing with this. So I think this would be additional. So I think these are some of the modifications in the probe that could be done. But I think essentially the first important thing would be to taper it further and to add some sort of a balloon. So we could have 2 devices, or we could have a device with different sizes, say 6 French, 5 French, 7 French, and so on. But basically, if you have a single device with a balloon, that may be useful also. The other thing is coming to the US RFA. We have a small experience now, about 7 cases, and the problem with this is that I think it's extremely thin. It's a 1 mm structure, so it's extremely thin. It's very flexible, so that's the problem also. Getting it through the needle is sometimes very difficult. Of course, we find that even you can get it through 22 gauge also, but 19 is ideal, but sometimes it's very difficult to get it through. The other problem is, of course, once we put this, we can't aspirate. For example, if one of the indications would be cysts. I think Bill has got a lot of experience with this. Indication would be cysts, pancreatic cysts, and once you put this in, of course, you can't aspirate the cyst completely, and one would want to completely aspirate and then do this type of RFA. The extent of injury you find is extremely small. I think that currently the present US RFA doesn't have the capability to produce enough tissue injury to sort of destroy, say, small tumors or even larger cyst walls. So I think the extent of injury is extremely small. So I'm not sure whether we should increase that, otherwise it's not very good. And of course the echogenicity is still not very ideal. One would want the echogenicity to increase. So this can be done easily because now we have technologies to increase the echogenicity of the probe. So this can be done very easily. One of the ways is to make the whole needle itself as RFA probe. And I think that would help in making it very thick, and the extent of injury would also increase. So these are some of the suggestions I thought regarding with my experience how we could sort of improve on these probes.